So voice interfaces could be a very easy and naturalistic way of interfacing with technologies for older adults. And it's more intuitive because it's conversational. You don't have to necessarily learn a control panel or learn where the buttons are, which buttons to press and which buttons not to press at certain times, but it's more conversational. You can just chat with the device, chat with a robot, chat with the technology. So voice interfaces could be helpful for older adults, and that could be an easier way to navigate different technologies for older adults who may not be necessarily experienced with different designs of way controls are offered to them. But one challenge is though, as people get older, one of the common experiences is that their hearing starts to deteriorate. So hearing problems are very common among older adults, and that is very important because once hearing becomes difficult and once that becomes a problem, then it becomes difficult for them to talk to someone, talk to people, talk to a device, understand what's being said to them, and also just carrying the conversation along. And we also know that from the literature that robotic assistants sometimes have a hard time hearing younger children's voices because there are certain things about the way they're speaking that's different from adults. That could also be the case for older adults who may have hearing and speaking difficulties. So that's a challenge that needs to be addressed. So social robots could be one solution to caregiving and assisting the caregiver tasks. I don't see social robots being replacements for caregivers, but complements. So one research that we did recently was looking at family caregiving, surveying family caregivers, getting into details of what they're doing as caregivers. Are you helping them get in and out of beds and chairs? Are you helping them with meal preparation? Are you helping them with medications, managing finances? So getting into details of different tasks and looking at what's difficult for them, where they need help, and how they're getting resources and how they feel about using services and technologies. And what we saw was that while a lot of these tasks are physical challenges for them, the bigger issue is that they are emotional challenges for these caregivers. And these are possibly some things that a robotic assistant, a social robot, might not be able to address. So while they might be able to help with certain tasks and keep them company, keep them entertained, keep them connected with the community, there's certain things that the family caregiver could only do that the social robots might not be. But it's certainly a complement because the family caregiver can't be there all the time. We also know that a lot of family caregivers are working full-time or part-time outside of caregiving, so they have other jobs to do. So when the caregivers can't be there, or when the caregivers living far apart from them, a social robot could be a great complement to keep them connected. So we certainly think about assisted living communities, nursing homes, different institutional settings for older adults, but we focus more on individual homes and people living in the community because that's a larger population, and that's what older adults want to do. They want to age in place, they want to stay in their communities, so that's where we focus more. But we do think about different technologies, different services that could be offered in the more institutional settings too. So thinking about bringing like robotic pets to nursing homes, thinking about building technologies into assisted living communities to make the jobs easier for caregivers, the staff, but also keep them safer and keep them more connected. But then again, we like to focus more on individual homes, people living in communities, and think about them staying in their own communities, but their tasks, their connections becoming more difficult and changing, and the environment's changing, and how they might be navigating those changes.